Hey guys, what's up? It's New. Here we go. We are just a few hours before the launch, and it's basically past my bedtime right now. But I promised you guys I would come out with a video about my overall, at least my overall plans, generally speaking, going into the 0.2.0 second iteration of the early access for PoE2. I'm very excited to do that. We had a great time on stream today. A bunch of people coming by to see the recently released gems, support gems, skill gems, some new uniques, a lot of data mining stuff coming in last second. It's coming in way later than normal. This is by design. Apparently GGG really wants to make it hard on people like me to, not only plan methodically what I'm going to do, but to do that and share it with you guys. So hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from. This is not going to be some really well polished video. This is massively scuffed and Giga Theory crafted. So very experimental things, and I'm just going to kind of go over what I'm planning with a little bit of a notepad document. This isn't even going to be well edited for you guys. Okay, sorry, but we thought we were just out of time. So let's get into it. I got different timestamps, which are going to be what these are right here, probably labeled the same. And yeah, so I'm going to be starting Amazon. In case you weren't aware, I loved playing Amazon in Diablo 2. It was the very first class that I ever played in any ARPG. So very much looking forward to going back to, Javazon, cow level, just doing that lightning spear, blowing up the screen. That's kind of what I got in the back of my mind, what I would like to see. And initially in this process, I started trying to concoct some kind of build that would do that. Now, after having taken a look at some of the new data mine stuff, it looks like that's not necessarily going to be the smartest or best or fastest way to play. And so my mind is very open on some potential other ways to go about this. But I'm definitely going to do Huntress and Amazon. It looks quite compelling, even at League Start, even on kind of scuffed gear. And we'll get into why that is. So there are going to be a lot of resources that I'm using, and hopefully I remember to link them all in the description. Just so you know, you should probably watch Ziggy D's recent videos, and I will link at least the first one there. It's a two-part series on Huntress skills and things he got to play, and I'm going to even be referencing some things from this video, like some of the skills he was using in here, and you get a sense of what a workable build. He didn't do like super in-game stuff, so it was kind of leveling, so it wasn't really fast-paced, and I'm trying to think of a build that would take some of what he applied and maybe elevate it, make it faster, far more efficient, at least theorycraft wise. And so, yeah, definitely recommend checking out these couple of videos. They're going to help you better understand how the Huntress, Amazon, and all that is going to work. We have patch notes that came out recently. This is a little bit old here, but then we also have a brand new passive skill tree that has been updated. PoE2DB seems to be on the ball for this. We got all kinds of new skill gems, support gems, and yeah, so PoE2DB, definitely the best resource currently, as we're just a few hours before the release. On to the Amazon. So I'm going to start with the ascendancy order that I'm planning. The first two are quite obvious. I would say the most powerful two ascendancy notables would be Critical Strike and then Elemental Infusion. I would highly recommend going Critical Strike first, and this is because what many people might overlook, major golden nugget for you here, accuracy, the formula for it is extremely forgiving when you're early leveling. So you do not need anywhere near as much accuracy to cap your accuracy when you're, say, level 50 as you do when you level 100. I mean, it is very forgiving. So it's super easy to cap your accuracy and way over cap it, especially if you're in any way, shape, or form getting gear that has accuracy on it. Even without gear with accuracy, you're probably still going to be able to over cap it with some help from the passive tree. So I think going for Critical Strike as early as you possibly can and just trying to prioritize accuracy wherever you can is going to give you a ton of crit chance. And I've heard some people say, or I think Ziggy D mentioned in one of his videos, that he got around 50% Critical Strike chance like super easily. And he didn't even get this Ascendancy point first. I think he actually went for Elemental Infusion and then Critical Strike when he was playing the game kind of ahead of time. So I would recommend going Critical Strike first, then Elemental Infusion. And I'm quite excited to make a build around Elemental Infusion. It looks really compelling. I'm aware that it just got nerfed, I guess, prior to, after the patch notes came out. But then, like, once the data mining came in, looks like it got nerfed pretty hard. But I think there's still a tremendous amount of potential there because it's essentially free damage. And so if you can figure out a way to make a build, attack extremely quickly, and consume charges very quickly, you could still get a ton of free damage, even if the numbers have been nerfed quite a bit. I'm still expecting it to be an absolute top-notch ascendancy point. And you can see here that it gives you extra bonuses if you've consumed recently Frenzy, Endurance, or Power Charge. Most people are most definitely going to just be thinking in terms of one of these charges. I'm going to be trying to do Frenzy and Power Charge, potentially Endurance charges. A lot of weird stuff with like supports and armor break, and can you really do that if you're focusing on elemental damage? There are some new supports in play, and there's still some things we don't know for sure on that. There's some even really quirky interactions that may work for endurance charges too. Could potentially see a build get all three of these very reliably. I don't know. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that throughout this video. After that, we'll probably get Infused Avatar, and then at the very end, get Penetrate here for a whole bunch of extra damage. Or maybe if I go some sort of Queen of the Forest build, Stalking Panther. Or maybe if Leech is way better than I think it is, if it's scaled, Mystic Harvest. Or maybe Predatory Instinct was actually better, more damage, more useful damage, single target. I don't know. But for sure, the first two, Critical Strike, followed by Elemental Infusion, probably Infused Avatar after that. And Infused Avatar would probably be dropped at some point later on. Kind of where my mind is at on that right now. All right, now for the rest of the passive tree, I know you guys are really going to like having some sort of blueprint. I don't necessarily recommend to you do exactly what I have here. This is extremely scuffed and just put together last minute. You might want to settle on a more well-grounded leveling build, something like, say, I don't know, Lightning Arrow. Lightning Arrow Huntress Amazon would probably be pretty good. Lightning Rod, Lightning Arrow, I'm sure would be really good. But I kind of want to try spears to start with. Not that, it's that big of a deal. Just drop the spear wheel and go bows anyway. But it would look something like this, going for movement speed right off the bat, getting Blur in here with some extra movement speed, and then perhaps waiting on Eagle Eye and Honed Instincts until after getting the first ascendancy point. But at any rate, get some more attributes here. And I don't know, take a couple points for Shining Skins, a lot of ailment threshold, seems all right. Going to be getting that crit, those crit synergies really early, so a nice crit wheel here with the brand new Cooked, aptly named Cooked Notable. Getting some extra movement evasion for these two. Movement super premium early on, so anywhere you can get it, it's nice. The Huntress will be starting the same place the Ranger does, so we get a lot of access to movement early on. Magnitude of shock, maybe if there are some skills, these skills do shock pretty easily, especially like, Lightning Spear is gonna shock pretty easily, as well as some other skills I would probably use. Maiming Strike, nice to be able to maim. Some extra attack damage, sure, why not? Skill speed, movement speed down here. I don't exactly know the order I'm going to do this. Falcon Dive seems obvious if I'm going to try to overcap accuracy. Don't know exactly what order once you get down in this area, but yeah, these are some really good points, some brand new spear nodes that seem quite powerful. We get a whole bunch of extra block chance. We're going to be using bucklers most likely. If you're not doing bows, this is, my goodness, this is an extra 40% increased block chance on the top, where you take a little bit of damage if you do block. There's some pretty crazy stuff going on new here with companions. And people have been talking a lot about this. A lot of great synergies, especially stuff like this, having increased defenses when you have a companion near you. Basically, companion, if you watch Ziggy's video, he shows it there. You can essentially tame a rare beast or rare monster with modifiers and keep its modifiers. What are the modifiers? Well, there'd be stolen headhunter buffs, essentially. And what is the entire list of those? I don't know. I can't remember. Didn't have time to look that up, but I'm sure there's a lot of theory crafting, a lot of fun stuff that you can see there. Look at these. Reduced reservation. It costs reservation based on the modifiers, I think. And yeah, just really nuts. I'm not even showing you the full spectrum of this whatsoever. Trusted Kinship allow you to run a Roa plus another companion. I guess would be pretty cool. Kind of looking forward to like possibly very endgame stuff with Queen of the Forest and the double companion setup. Could be really nice with not having any sort of movement speed reduction while using ranged skills. Sounds pretty awesome to me. But at any rate, back to the passive tree. Going for some more crit, a jewel slot, and yeah, who knows from there. I don't know. Didn't get any further than that. But, pretty good choices here, I think, overall. Well balanced, a lot of accuracy, some evasion, a lot of movement, some crit, some companion stuff, and more movement, ailment threshold, just a little bit of some shock in here, a little bit of everything. And you may or may not want to take all this stuff here. You may want to go a totally different route. You may just want to go up, do the monk stuff. I don't know. Probably going to be life-based build. Probably going to be running, I forget the name of it. Cannibalism. Yeah, cannibalism for the recovery in maps. Not really sure about on bosses, but yeah, passive tree. There it is. All right, as you can see, next on the list is a section called All About Charges. So what am I getting at here? Well, I think the real potential of a Huntress Amazon build lies in elemental infusion and anything you can do to dramatically increase the rate at which you acquire charges, especially if you can get more than one charge or even all three charges very quickly, and then also the rate at which you can spend them is the way you're going to scale insane amount of damage with this, especially without, thinking about like super niche items or whatever, just kind of generally speaking. Now, after having played the monk, I know it's quite easy to acquire frenzy and power charges very quickly and efficiently in maps, especially profane ritual is a skill that, especially if it's tied into like cast on crit and you have a lot of crit chance, of course, we're going to have easier crit acquisition than even the monk did because of this insane critical strike notable in this ascendancy. It's going to be all too easy to crit. And so eventually I'm going to be running cast on crit. Yes, 100 spirit. And yes, it's way better than cast on shock, cast on freeze, but you might use cast on shock, cast on freeze, or Reaper's Invocation, I think is probably the first thing I would do after Act 3. Reaper's Invocation with like Sniper's Mark inside there, with Profane Ritual, with Profusion. That would make for a really, really solid way to acquire a bunch of charges. Now, how would I spend them? Well, we have different spenders for the new spear skills. Basically, any sort of thrown spear skill is going to spend frenzy charges. Some nice bonuses in there. Lightning Spear is the one that is at least most akin to the Lightning Javazon of Diablo 2. So it's the one that I'm going to probably gravitate towards the most. But again, I'm not married to spears. Bows might be better. In fact, I have reason to believe that bows probably are better, which leads us into the next section. One thing you'll notice is that when you look into the spear skills, you'll see that compared to bows, there's way fewer projectiles going out, generally speaking, at least in terms of like the grand scope of potential of spears versus bows. Fewer projectiles, slower attacks, but harder hitting, higher damage. That's not going to be very good with that ascendancy because it begs you to attack as fast as possible, acquire charges as fast as possible, and unload, essentially kind of minigun carpet bombing to get massive explosions on the infused weapon buff. And if you read into infused weapons, I don't even know where it is yet on here, so I'm just going to tell you, infused weapon, basically it explodes at the end of the projectile's journey. Now, does that mean it explodes when it obviously means it would, like, for some generic bow attack, it would explode when it hits an enemy. Does that mean it explodes when it hits an enemy if it forks or chains or splits or something? I don't know, probably. Does it mean it explodes also or after the chain at the very end of the journey? Let's say, it hits and forks and then chains and then it explodes. Does it explode for all of the different, expanded projectiles on there? Does it explode for like all the hits on, I don't know, rain of arrows? Think about that. Does it explode for all the hits on the salvo skills, magnetic or freezing salvo? This is what I mean when I think bows are probably going to be better because spears can't do anything like that. There is nothing in the game that's like that could even compare to, say, even just like freezing salvo. That's an absolute like just carpet bomb skill. Imagine putting concentrate effect in there and getting like 13 explosions that go off just all within a quarter of a second. And if all of those explosions go off when you use that skill, that's going to be superior to anything the spears can do, again, even after the nerf, because that's just going to really feed into how you would scale that damage. So we're just trucking right along. I'm going to move on to part 5 here. Some noteworthy interactions. These are just some things, especially over the course of the stream earlier today. I just noticed a few things, and basically what I'm highlighting right here is what I'm about to talk about. These are more specific to spear gameplay, but yeah, just getting into it, just to give you some sense of like methodical gameplay and how it would work with some of the spears, one cool interaction that I thought of or saw, and Ziggy D was kind of doing some of this as well, is Thunderous Leap with Stormlance, and using Thunderous Leap as a mechanism to detonate Stormlance, because apparently that works. Well, we got a couple of new support gems too, called Retreat and Pursuit, which are kind of a vice versa. One of them is for the melee skill, one of them is for the range skill, and they give extra damage to each other. But, you know, you can't use like Pursuit and Retreat on the same skill or anything like that. So it's just really nice to be able to put, you know, some extra damage on your skill that you care more about the damage for, like Stormlance. By the way, you can use supports for Infused Weapon as well. So there's a lot of extra damage supports you could use and should use if you're trying to prioritize that skill. That's a bonus skill that you're gonna get on your skill bar for free, but it will have, you know, the extra links that you're gonna get with like jeweler orbs and stuff to expand the links on it. Anyway, this is just a cool interaction that I think would be nice. Thunderous Leap can be a movement skill that would, you know, you would shoot your Stormlance and then leap into it, detonate it, and then get all the extra damage both ways. Or maybe, you know, Thunderous Leap could also be used to simply just leap out of Trouble's way. So, you know, it kind of works both ways on that. Moving on, a little section on accuracy. Accuracy is going to play a huge role in the game. Later on, we're going to be crafting. Yes, guys, we're actually going to be crafting. Well, either with the Recombinator or with Fracturing Orbs. I think a lot of you guys are going to be interested in fracturing Tier 1 accuracy on gloves or helmet. And or weapon, by the way. I didn't even write that down, but it's going to make for crafting items a lot easier when you kind of chaos spam them after that. I think the chaos sync is going to be real in this iteration of the game, guys. Not exactly sure. Remember, we don't have Scouring Orbs, so you fracture, I guess you're stuck kind of crafting it the hard way. Which, again, maybe why recombination is actually going to be better. In the end, I don't know. Can't predict the future. We don't really know yet, but that remains to be seen. Also, Penetrate, which is another ascendancy point that I mentioned, gives you a whole bunch of damage, is extra physical flat damage, which, you know, to give you some sense, it's a lot. Like, it's basically going to work presumably the same way as Flat Fizz would work on rings or, you know, some other alternate piece of gear. And if you have max Flat Fizz roll, which I think, or flat accuracy, which I think is like 550, maybe more on the weapon, but there's also hybrid rolls. Anyway, I think it's 137 Flat Fizz. If you do that, which is probably going to be worth more than even like a hybrid roll baked into the weapon. Although remember, some certain calculations will take place before this one, likely, if it's like baked into the weapon. So a triple tier 1 flat percent and hybrid might be more powerful than this at the end of the day, but at least it does offer additional flexibility in how you might go about getting a weapon, crafting a weapon. Again, the weapon's going to matter a lot here. We're not going to be using Caged Pillar of the Caged God, rather. We're not going to be doing something like that this time around, I think. So we're actually going to need a real weapon. Tier 1 Fizz roll or 187 Flat Fizz with the hybrid. So this would be like hybrid roll plus Tier 1 accuracy. And this number would go even higher with Vision Runes, which might potentially beat out attack speed, local attack speed, Soul Cores, I guess it is, or maybe it's runes. I don't know, can't remember. And then keep in mind, we also have greater runes coming around the corner. So I wouldn't be surprised if you could get upwards of 800 or even like 1,000 accuracy rolled on the weapon. That would be a huge amount of Flat Fizz gained here again on this particular ascendancy point. Kind of already blew this one out with the earlier part of the video here. Cast on Crit Sniper's Mark, Profane Ritual, and Profusion. You also have things like Impetus or Inspiration support to help out with the mana cost. I think it's going to be a really, really good cast on Crit Link or Meta Link gem. Yeah, it's 100 spirit. Definitely going to be worth it. Get your spirit somewhere else. I don't know. Going to have to find it in different ways. But yeah, at any rate, I think that is going to be a very smart way to go about a meta gem and using the spirit for this build, whatever it ends up being, again in conjunction with elemental infusion. That is going to give us some pretty good acquisition for frenzy charges, especially single target, and for power charges later on. Honorable mention to the power charge chests. There are 2 of them, and those work for either power charge on hit or power charge on crit, both of which would be fine. And that can be used to replace Profane Ritual if you want, or just be used instead for single target. Do keep in mind that that will soak up a chest slot, which could be very good for other things, other niche things like Queen of the Forest, for example. You know, really early on, I'm probably just going to level with basic attack. I'm using a spear, and I'm just using basic attack and put momentum support in there. And yeah, then we'll just call it a day. But on that note, or slightly alternative note here, we got the idea of throwing potential support and or ferocity support. That is, those support gems make whatever skill you're using consume power and frenzy charges. In the case of these two choices here. And it doesn't matter whether the skill automatically consumes one of those. It will consume it if you have any, and that could feed into infusion through elemental infusion here, just for random attacks, like the salvo skills or what have you. Charge infusion is another skill I don't want you guys to forget. I really loved using this in the last one. This is the one that gives you more crit chance, more skill speed, and or more defenses for endurance charges on whichever charge you're using, and it would automatically consume charges every like 3 or 4 seconds as well. That's not nearly often enough to, you know, make hay with this elemental infusion, but you know, it might be a nice way to combine. You know, if you're already going for all the charges and you're not necessarily dumping all of them as like if you're acquiring the charges more reliably, then you can dump the charges, then getting a little bit of extra passive power through charge infusion might be a really good thing to do, and so that is still there. Don't want you guys to forget about that one. I'm definitely going to look into it. Weapon swap makes a return here, potentially. A lot of power with weapon swap. Flicker Strike. Somebody in my community thinks Flicker Strike not necessarily going to require quarterstaffs, but I assume that it is. So assuming that it is, weapon swap for quarterstaff for Flicker Strike. I mean, we do have these quarterstaff nodes over here, which is going to work out nicely. It could give you extra mobility and power charge consumption. Okay, maybe not. I don't really like the weapon swap speed issue. That to me is still quite a bit of a hindrance. You know, you need a really good reason to weapon swap. These probably aren't good enough reasons by themselves. But a second on the list is Tornado Shot. So Tornado Shot will now split spear attacks as well as bow attacks, but the Tornado Shot itself requires you to use a bow. That kind of sucks, but well, I guess okay, whatever. It's there. It's a potential thing you could do. Other wild interaction potential. Here's some things that are really out of left field that I thought about. We got Cast on Crit plus Frost Wall with Lightning Spear with Infused Weapon. And Verglass. I'm going to look up Verglass real quick here. All right, this is Verglass support. Destroying an ice crystal grants supporter skills 1% of damage gained is extra cold for 6 seconds per 2,000 maximum life destroyed ice crystals. I mean, you can increase the life of the ice crystals. I don't even know how many ice crystals Frost Wall creates. It does have a sort of like max use of 3 with a long cooldown, which could be an hindrance, but it might be absolutely insane on like bosses single target, just like front loading a huge amount of damage, get a massive damage multiplier. Do these stack up with each one? I don't know. Needs a lot of testing. Super out of left field. Pretty crazy interaction if it were to work, but I don't know. Remains to be seen. And then another one that is even harder to anticipate is all the possible ways you could make Tame Beast extremely strong. One possible way, or one thing I would love to see, is, I believe if I'm not mistaken, in rare monsters are capable of stealing charges or even like just generating charges and possibly sharing them with their minions or sharing them with their allies or something like that. So if you were to perhaps get, for example, tame a rare that had 2 modifiers, one giving it endurance charges and the other allowing it to share charges, I mean, that could be pretty wild, guys. I mean, that in and of itself could be really insane with this notable. If it's really hard to, I mean, it is going to be pretty hard to get a bunch of endurance charges real quick. I'm not even sure exactly how you go about it. I think I mentioned this earlier, something about armor break and trying to use that. There does seem to be some interesting ways for armor break to make its way into a build. I think more reliably than it was in the previous iteration. We do have more supports for that, but again, I don't even know the whole list of them, so that's just kind of out in left field for now. Basically, last up on the list, we got just some more overpowered supports. I'm going to go over these in order. These are ones that really raised my eyebrows when I saw them, and you're going to understand why when we look at these here. And I'm actually going to go in and type them out. We'll start with Blindside. Or I guess I can go over here. All right, check this out. Supported skills cannot inflict blind. Oh, well, you know, we can get blind many other ways. Supported skills have 15% more critical damage bonus with hits against blinded enemies and 15% more chance to critically hit blinded enemies. That's honestly a pretty wild amount of power if you're already scaling crit pretty heavily, which we would be. Overextend is another one on the list. You are dazed. Doesn't really matter. All dazed does is make it so you're more susceptible to being stunned. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, wear charm, right? I mean, I don't think it's going to matter that much. 30% more critical damage bonus to supported skill. My goodness. That sounds absolutely insane. I mean, that is, I assume that's more than 30% more damage by itself. I don't know. Don't have PoE open to double check that, but that is going to be a mainstay for any crit-based build to have probably in their most important damage link, which might be infused weapon, actually. Storm Chain, here we go. Supported skills cannot inflict shock. Supported skills chain from shocked enemies. Like, does that require the prerequisite that it has to have chain? I assume not. This is just, what is this, just like free unlimited chain? Now, there is kind of a built-in stipulation that you can't chain off of enemies that already chained, but dude, does it, I mean, I'm reading this as like essentially maximum infinite chain until you've chained every enemy once from shocked enemies, assuming they're in range. Like, it doesn't even remove the shock. That's wild, dude. So, I mean, it's easy to like mass shock. If we got shocked ground, it's shock all over the place. Most of the good spear skills have shocked. I think both of the main spear skills have shocked. So, you know, you could just be running lightning arrow and lightning rod, and this would be absolutely stupid overpowered anyway. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you're running lightning build shock, you're going to use this. Unless the projectile can't chain like lightning spear, which, again, this is just more in favor of bows over spears, I think, here. Ambrosia support got my attention. I don't think this is going to synergize with, what is it over here? Leech, no, sorry. Yeah, life flasks also recover mana. Mana flasks also recover life. I don't think there's like any special synergy there with this, but just in general, if you do some soft napkin math, you can see it's a lot of extra damage. Damage is extra lightning per mana flask charge consumed. If you don't need your mana flask for anything else, well, you know, mana is going to be easier to maintain in this iteration of the game. I think it's like the one thing that got buffed pretty hard is mana sustain. So, I don't know. Might be really good, even early on. Salvo is one of the support gems that caught my attention at the very end. I think this is something that might save spears. In this case, projectiles basically get unleash support, which is, you know, the caster's variation of salvo. So, you know, we already have like freezing salvo and magnetic salvo. Well, salvo support kind of just makes the carpet bombing idea into it. So if you're using more than one button gameplay, you would actually get a lot of usage out of this. And, you know, maybe I use it for lightning spear. Maybe I use it for the storm chain. Or rather, Storm Lance. Maybe use it for that one instead. Not sure. Lightning Spear and Storm Lance are kind of like the two skills I'm looking at as potential. Maybe both of them in a build. But yeah, that is pretty insane. I even had Unleash support in my cast on Crit Link just for the hell of it. To get like more Eye of Winter stuff, which is, by the way, nerfed. No longer gives critical weakness. Not going to matter, I don't think. Much for this build, though. Expedite is a new support that is aptly timed for the detonation ones. For, yeah, again, God, I just cannot remember the name of this skill. Storm Lance is going to have a detonation time. Even if you get the frenzy charge, it's still going to be, I think, 1.5 seconds. This would drop it down to 0.9 seconds, so less than a second detonation time. That's assuming you're not detonating it, like hard detonating it in some other way with some other skill. Yeah, this is going to be really, really good for that particular skill, or any others that suffering from detonation time. Nice to have this in. Hit and Run is the last one that I have on the list. I feel like this one was in 0.1.0, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Supported skills become usable after you have moved 10 meters. Now, I kind of discovered through testing and momentum support and whatnot that 10 meters is actually really short. And yeah, that's not moving much. So if you're a kind of a lateral moving running character as opposed to teleporting, this may not work for pure teleportation. Yeah, you're going to get maximum usage out of this. 40% more skill speed. That is a lot. So again, it also promotes 2-button gameplay, where you would tie this into one of the 2 attacks that you're using. That's going to help you move a lot faster. I like seeing this. I like the 2-button gameplay idea, so I know it's not for everybody, but they're definitely pushing us in that direction with things like this. So big thumbs up from me. I'm probably going to use this support gem somewhere. And that's going to conclude the video. We're just going to stop it right there. And I don't even know if I'm going to make a thumbnail for this, but I'm just going to get it out, edit it real quick. And that's where my head's at. It's I do not have a nice confined plan on there. I got some rough idea about what I'm going to do. I don't know what kind of gear I'm going to get. I got to remember to check the vendors. Definitely got to be open-minded to the possibility of using bows over spears. I would like to play spears at least for a while. But yeah, basically just going to start with basic attacks and kind of work in some sort of 2-button synergy. Probably with lightning-based shock damage, electrocute, maybe in there as well. Try to get the elemental infusion kicked in. Hard casting Sniper's Mark early on as my primary way to acquire frenzy charges. I don't think any of the other methods are going to be really worth it, especially at the higher end. Just going to be triggering Sniper's Mark later, and that's going to have to work best it can. One point of concern is that when you one-shot enemies with the trigger Sniper's Mark, you don't get awarded the frenzy charge, which again is really going to lend credence to a strategy that doesn't hit super hard, but hits super often and kind of just, you know, especially again, these salvo skills. I'm telling you, those are high on the list of potential with elemental infusion if they work the way I think they are. I'm looking forward to testing this in the next coming days. But on that note, this is going to be the end of the video. I will actually not be streaming immediately at the start. I got to go to bed. I got to work in the morning, sadly. But yeah, I'll still be on later after that. And I'm going to be having fun in the campaign, which is honestly a lot of fun in this current game. The end game did get a bit of an, I guess, a paint job, if you will. But I don't think it's got anything crazy insanely new about it. It's really about the new support gems, new skill gems, new ascendancy, new class, new uniques, and that's where it's at this time around. So it's going to be good. It's going to be fun, and I'll see you guys there. So hopefully you join in on the Twitch stream. If not, either way, all good. I will check the comments on this video as the day progresses, but don't be surprised if, you know, I kind of bury myself into the game itself and kind of just check out as far as comments and just going to play for the most part. But for sure, more videos coming your way. We'll give you some kind of update on what it is I kind of landed on the first couple days, I guess, as far as skills. I'll be coming out. If there's any insane tech that works out, like huge epiphany moments, of course, I'll kind of stop what I'm doing and drop a video for you guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. Good luck on 0.2, your league start, I guess we'll call it. Early access, second round. Let's get it. I'll see you guys in the next video.